Welcome to today's class on Mann-Whitney U Test. The Mann-Whitney U Test is just opposite of the independent sample t-test and is normally conducted when your assumptions on your data sets do not follow the parametric conditions. So it is acceptable and it is recommended when your data sets rather follow the non-parametric conditions, such as your data set is not normally distributed and your data set is ordinal or uses an ordinal scale. And it's used to compare two samples, just as we saw it in the independent sample t-test, which we normally also call the student t-test. Okay, so here I have two groups, left wing and right wing, just as we saw it in my other video. So you can watch it on my channel. And the two groups are right wing and left wing. So I explained that during the French Revolution, there were two groups of parties or people who were either supporting or were against the French monarchy. For those who supported the French monarchy, who have been translated in contemporary terms as those who favor businesses, conservatism, and tend to preserve more of traditional way of doing things in society. Such parties are normally called the right-wing parties, right-wing parties. An example of a right-wing party is the Republican Party in the US, where President Donald Trump and then former President George Bush, these are right-wingers. In the UK, we have the Conservative Party. In Australia, we have the Liberal National Party. If you go to a country like Ghana, we have the New Patriotic Party. All these parties are right-wing parties. And then we have the left-wing parties. These left-wing parties were the parties who were opposing. They are normally called the progressives. They were against the French monarchy. And I mentioned in my last video that if you want to read more about this, you can grab a book or you can just Google and check the French Revolution, where King Louis XVI was killed. So those who were against the monarchy and they favored the overthrow and even the execution of King Louis, they were called the left-wingers. And they favor more of social justice and progressive initiatives in the society. Examples of left-wing parties include the African National Congress in South Africa, the we can say the National Democratic Congress of NDC in Ghana. We can talk about the Labour Party in Australia and also Labour Party in UK. And then the Democratic Party in US, from which we got former President Barack Obama. So all these parties are considered as left-wing parties. Okay, so I have a country here, just as I explained it in my other video, and the country I call the country X. So we want to know whether there are differences in the policies that these groups of parties put out there. So in a country called country X, there is a party which is a right-wing party, and there's a party which is a left-wing party. And these parties tend to rule their country. So we are hypothesizing, or I hypothesized that there's no difference between the two ideologies when it comes to ensuring that people do well in the society. And then the alternative is that there are differences. So I want to test. So in my other video, which I will encourage you to watch it, I use the independent t-test, where I assumed that the data set followed the parametric assumptions. But in this context, we are using the Mann-Whitney U Test because I'm assuming that we don't follow the parametric, but rather we are following the non-parametric. Okay, so I have my data set here. So in this context, I'm going to use the SPSS to make it simple and easy for everyone. So when you go to the SPSS, I'm going to copy the two set of data into my SPSS. So I'll copy the right wingers policies, the number of policies that you put out. And then I will also copy the number of left wingers, or the left wing party. And I also put it somewhere here. So I can just add it to this. Okay. Then here, I will assume that I'm just going to give them numbers, but later on I'll explain how to get this by just saying 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 for all the right wing policies, and then 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 for all the left wing policies. Another way by which you can do this is that you can first come and set them up in the variable view, where you can make changes to the names of the variables and then what they stand for. So these are the ideologies. And then in this context, the ideologies are the ones that we have to give values to. So 1 in this context represents right wing. We just want to know what they stand for. And then the 2 represent the left wing. Okay. With respect to the center, with respect to the scale as a measurement scale, the policies are considered to be more of a scale in terms of they being interval or ratio numbers. And then the ideologies are just nominal. They are categorical scale, nominal, in a context that we have only 2. We are saying that one party could be a right wing, another party could be a left wing. Okay, so once you set them up like this, which I can also remove the decimals. I just want to remove the decimals. I don't want any decimals. Yeah, so these are the values or the figures. Okay, so once I have this, then the next thing I can do is I can go straight and do my analysis and get my Mann-Whitney U Test done. So you click on Analyze, and then you select non-parametric tests. you put this thing on non-parametric test, then you go down to the legacy dialog. And with the legacy dialog, you select the two independent samples. Okay, so here, what we are trying to test is a policy. So you put it here, and then the groupings are the ideologies, which are the left wing and then the right wing ideologies. So here you can specify group 1 is for the right wingers as we have specified, and then the 2 is for the left wingers as we have specified. Once you have that, you just click OK. And then you get a resource. So what is the resource saying? So if we are going by the resource, what the resource is telling us is that according to the asymptotic significance, the two-tail, I mean, even both of them, or the exact significance of the one tail, they are telling us that these values, the p-values or significance level, are higher than the significance level of 0.05%, which is a 5% significance level. This is higher than that. And once it's higher, then we have to accept. If you have a significance value which is higher than the significance level of 5% or 1% or 10%, but in this context we are using 5%, which is 0.05, then you have to accept the null hypothesis. And the null hypothesis is saying that there's no differences between the two ideologies. But if our answer, if in case we got asymptotic significance, two-tail or even or the one-tail, and then our answer or our result was less than 0.05, let's say we got something like 0.000008, then we can assume that yes, there is a significant difference because we will reject the null hypothesis. But in this context, we will not reject, but rather accept. Okay, so that's how you go about it. Also, if you want to check, because this is more of an ordinal scale, it would be great you use the median instead of the mean, because this is a sum of rank or sum of the ranking of the values according to the Mann-Whitney. To do that, to check that, you can go to Analyze, and then you go to the means, per means, and then here you put the policies here, and then the ideologies will be the independent value. And then you go to options. You remove all these things from here because our data set does not meet the parametric. So we can't use mean. Rather, we have to use median. So you come here and look out for median. Median is appropriate instead of using mean. So you check out for the median. Apart from the median, all other things can also be. You can also analyze all other things like the sum, the minimum, maximum, range, first, last, and all that. You can do that. But here, the median is an appropriate measure of central tendency instead of the mean. You click continue, you click OK, and it will give you this resource. Is that okay? Good. So another thing too that you can also do with the Mann-Whitney is that you can also detect the effect size. So how do you detect the effect size? For you to detect the effect size, you have to take the absolute value of the Z score. So the absolute value of the Z score here is going to be 0.316. 0.316 instead of negative 0.316. And then you divide that by the square root of the sample size. So the sample size in this one is going to be 16. The square root of that is going to be 4. So 4, so 0.316 divided by 4. And whatever you get, so let's check that. So 0.316 divided by 4. So the square root of 16 is 4. Is 0.79. 0.79. Is this strong enough? You can check the effect size, whether this is strong. So you can check this. And check whether we can easily check this. So it falls below. So that means it's small. Generally, it's going to be small. Yeah. Up to 0.2 is considered as small. The medium is 0.21 up to 0.5 is medium. And then large is anything above 0.8. Yeah, so here we can say that our effect size, the effect size here represents the magnitude of the relationship between the two groups. So the magnitude or the significance relationship between the two groups, you can see that they are not or is not that big. There's no significant differences. So no wonder the results also gave us the answer, or gave us the results that made us conclude that there's no significant difference between the two ideologies, because from the effect size, it's not even big. It's not big, it's small, the effect, the relationship between the two. So that's all that I have for you today. So you can copy these things. Okay, so if you have a number of groups, like maybe you are just trying to compare Canada and US, Ghana and Australia, males against females, test scores, construction project managers against IT project managers, the work that Group A did against Group B, you can do all that, 2 groups. But the only condition is that you have to make sure that the data set does not meet, make sure that the data set does not meet the parametric conditions. In my subsequent videos or later on, I will try as much as possible to also provide you with a video where you can look at the testing of the normality of your data set, because once you test and establish your normality, whether your data sets meet the normality conditions or not, then any of these tests could be conducted, whether it's Mann-Whitney or independent t-test or any other one. So I wish you all the best and see you in my subsequent videos. Have a good day. Bye.